Right, here we are. This is January 2005 past paper. Again, you have to have a go at the questions first before watching the video of me, or there's no point. Are you all excited? Right, get on with it. Right, I had to look at this one for a little while because I was like, I have no idea why. But I do know why, because if you look at this picture, before they were using... Oh, sorry, put my dotted lines out. They were using making that many capital goods. Now they're making more capital goods. So the thing is, so that's where the capital goods was before. So I'm just put like a 1, and this is where it is now. So that means they're making more capital goods. We know the definition for investment is an increase in, investment is spending on capital goods by firms. So you know that if there's an increase in capital goods being made, then there's going to be more investment. So the answer is C. All the other ones are stupid. I mean, obviously growth is stupid, because growth would have to be another line coming out like this. And employment, God knows why, and productivity is stupid. So there we are at C. Right, this question should have been really easy for you. So it's just a definition of consumption. Now, consumption means, whenever you see it and get scared, it means consumer spending. So don't worry about that. And you know it's spending by households on goods and services. So it's this one. That's not enough. I don't know why it says including imports. Not needed. Sometimes they try and make it, because there's these long ones, you think, oh, it must be the long one. It's not. Remember, consumer spending is just households spending on goods and services. Okay, this is another easy one, I think. It's saying an increase in imports of consumer goods is most likely to be caused by. So, the answer is B, because if households are spending more money, and if they've got more income, they're going to spend more. And if they're spending more, they might buy imports. And that's just basically it. If people are saving more, we're not going to be buying imports, we're not buying anything. A fall in the exchange rate, you could write next to this WIDEC, or wide C, and this would make imports, I'll just change colour, this would make imports dear, so that means we wouldn't buy any more imports. And a fall in employment means people will be unemployed, and if they're unemployed, I can't spell unemployed. If they're unemployed, what's happening? They're not going to be buying anything, so that's wrong. So the answer is B. Right, in my opinion, these questions are a bit of a nightmare. I don't like them, but I've done like a whole video on like every single one of these I could find. So if you do that video and do like 10 at once, you'll get used to it. Okay, so initially you can look at a few things with this question. You can say that it's talking about economic growth, the retail price index, which is basically the same as the CPI, the consumer price index. It's just another version of it. Anyway. So what does the data show? Does the data show the economy has moved into recession by the end of the period? Now, if you look at this, some people might think, oh, because it was growing by 2.7% and now it's only growing by 2.2%, it's growing by less, so it's a recession. Those people would be wrong, because a recession is 2 quarters, so like 6 months of negative growth. Now, in no quarter during the whole of that was there any negative growth. At all times it was growing, just at a slower rate. So we'll cross that out. Right, GDP was lower at the end of the period than the start. Again, someone is going to think, right, it was 2.7% and now it's 2.2%, and that's lower. But it's not. GDP's been growing every single time. So here, in quarter 2 of 2001, GDP in quarter 3 of 2001 is 2.2% higher than that point. So every single time it's getting higher. So that's rubbish. Right. C, the price level was higher at the end of the period than at the start. Now look at this. The price level was 166.8. At the end, it's 174. So that is obviously right. And then finally, D, you can't find out this. It's impossible to work out what was the cause of the increase in the rate of inflation. So that is rubbish. So the answer is C. Now, I know you're going to probably be sitting there thinking, I don't know what you're chatting about. And the best way to do that is to go back to that video I talked about. Okay, this is actually a really nice one. It's got 2 things that are happening, and you've just got to work out what those 2 things are doing. So first of all, increasing the interest rate would make AD go down, because it is a contractionary, I'll put that up there, it's a contractionary monetary policy. I don't know if that matters, I'm just saying it so you get used to it. Right, so AD is going down with that first thing. I'll change colour now. And the exchange rate is rising. So let's go for spiced. And that means imports cheap, exports dear. And when exports are dear and imports are cheap, this means that AD again is going to go down. This is because if there's exports are expensive, no one's going to be buying them. If imports are cheap, then we're going to be buying imports, and that makes our AD go down. So both those factors have made AD go down. So the question basically is, what's most likely to happen if there's a decrease in AD? And it would be an increase in unemployment, because there'd be an increase in cyclical unemployment. The other ones are just wrong. Simple as that. That's the right answer. Okay, question number 6. Right, there's going to be a couple of you who saw this and didn't know what the hell it was chatting about. So I'm just going to go to the first bit. You've got to know what a balance of payments is. Balance of payments is talking about the trade balance. So if we've got a balance of payment deficit, we are importing, I'm going to do a little sign here, more than we are exporting. I think that's the right sign. I think that's the crocodile going the right way. Not sure. Anyway, moving on. Right, which policy is most likely to reduce both the balance of payments deficit and the rate of inflation? So we've got to make inflation go down, and we've got to try and increase exports and reduce imports. So which of these 4 things could do that? So you basically just tick it off. Right, first of all, a fall in government spending. Will that decrease inflation? In fact, I'll put like a... Oh, no, I won't. Will that, a fall in government spending, will that decrease inflation? Yes, it will. Because it will reduce demand pull inflation, because government spending is part of C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So it will reduce demand pull inflation. So we've got halfway there. Now, a fall in government spending, will that improve our trade balance? Yes, it would. Because if AD has gone down, this means we'll be buying less imports maybe. So at the minute, this is 2 ticks for this one. I know that you're probably not sure about that second one I said, but let's go through the other ones. Right, a cut in interest rates. Would that improve our balance of payments deficit? No, because AD would go up, so we'd be buying more imports. Also, this would cause demand pull inflation, so that's definitely wrong. Right, again, a decrease in the rate of income tax. That would cause demand pull inflation, and it would also mean we might buy more imports. That's wrong again. And a reduction in the exchange rate, all you do is rewrite WIDEC. Imports dear, exports cheap. Right, first of all, would that be good for our balance of payments? Yes, it would actually. So we've got halfway there with this. It's half right. But the problem is, what would happen if there was a reduction in our exchange rate? If exports are cheap, AD would go up. And if AD goes up, this would cause demand pull inflation. So it's bad for inflation, so it can't be right. So the only answer that possibly can be right is A. Right, sometimes with questions like that, you've got to work out which ones are definitely wrong, and sometimes that will get you the right answer. Right, this one, they've gone way too big for no reason. What's basically happened to interest rates? Interest rates are going down. That's all we've got so far. So, it says, what will be the likely consequence of the change of interest rate shown? So it's just, what's going to happen if interest rates go down? Right, are people likely to save if interest rates are going down? No, they're not, because there's less incentives to save, so why would you do it? Secondly, is there likely to be an increase in demand for consumer credit? Yes, there is, because if interest rates are low, people are more likely to want to take out loans. Right, house buyers would have cheaper mortgages, that's wrong. And again, it would cause an increase in AD. So the answer is B. Right, on to 10. There's an output gap when? Now I'm just going to remind you what an output gap is with a little diagram here, right? So this is the economy. And this is, for once, real GDP goes up here on this diagram. And over here goes time. And you have this straight line, which is the trend rate. And this is how much they expect the economy to grow by. And then you've got this actual rate here. Whoops, actual rate. I probably want that to go back down again anyway, who cares. The actual rate, this is how much the economy is actually growing at. So if the economy is down by here, that means it's growing less than they thought it would. So it's got a negative output gap. However, if it's the other way around, it's got a positive output gap. Right, Just very quickly, if there's a positive output gap, there will be inflation because the economy is growing quicker than it should be, so there's too much demand. And down here, if there's a negative output gap, the economy is within its PPF, so therefore there's going to be unemployment. Anyway, there is an output gap when productivity is continuously higher in one country than another. That's got nothing to do with anything. Don't know what they're chatting about. B, the economy is continually producing more capital goods than consumer goods over a period of time. Actually, that wouldn't cause an output gap. I don't know what they're chatting about, if I'm being honest. C, unemployment occurs because the rate of economic growth increases above its trend rate. No, I mean halfway, because an output gap is sometimes when the rate of economic growth is higher than trend rate, but it wouldn't be unemployment, it would be inflation. So therefore, C is wrong. And then D, national output is higher or lower than it would have been if the country had grown continuously at its trend rate. Now from that diagram, we know that's right, so the answer is D. Right, I think this is quite an easy question. Whenever the LRAS goes this way, I mean on our diagrams a lot of the time we draw it like this. We draw it with a curvy line, and we say AS1 and AS2. But it's the exact same thing, it's just they haven't got the curvy bit. Okay, so what would cause a rightward shift in the long run aggregate supply curve? Now we know that's anything to do with Q squared cell. So we're looking for any quantity or quality of cell. Let's go for it. Right, firstly, I'll cross off the ones it can't be. So this wouldn't make any sense. A decrease in the rate of inflation. It's got nothing to do with anything. Get rid of that. An increase in the level of consumption. We know that's wrong because that would affect AD. A decrease in wage rates would cause the SRAS to go to the right because that is a change in a firm's cost of production. So I could see why someone might say that, but they've got it wrong. So that's wrong. And then obviously A is right because an increase in the stock of capital goods would increase the quantity. I don't know what I'm trying to do here. Quantity of capital. So therefore, obviously, the LRAS would shift to the right. Right, I'm going to go Maverick here and not actually check what the answer is. I'm just going to see whether I can work it out. It's very exciting for me. Okay, in a recent year, irrelevant. Nominal, a word I can't really say very well. Nominal. Anyway, nominal means before. What does it mean before? It means before inflation. Or inflation... before inflation has been taken into account. I'm going to write it out. Into account. However, real, circle that there, means inflation has been taken into account. So it's the other way. Okay, so if national income grew by 5%, let's put it there, 5%, but the price level also went up by 2.5%, and the population went up by 0.5%, from this information, it can be concluded that real national income per head, right, so what we've got now is real means inflation has been taken into account, and per head means per person. So let's go through it. If national income grew by 5%, but then the price level is growing by 2.5%, so actually national income in real terms has only so far grown by 2.5%. But in the same time, the population has grown by 0.5%, so actually, per head, national income would have only actually grown by 2%. Now, which of these four would allow that be? It can't be A, because it's not exactly 2.5. It's not more than 2.5. It's not 0. It's C, less than 2.5%. I've explained that very well. I'm quite excited by that. Right, this one we laugh at. It's embarrassingly easy. Which of the following is most likely to increase the level of consumption in the UK economy? Now, remember, consumption is spending by households on goods and services. Right, firstly, a rise in house prices. Whoops. That would make people feel more wealthy. When people feel more wealthy, what do? They spend. So that makes sense. Right, a rise in interest rates, obviously that would make people spend less using credit cards. They'd save more. Their mortgage interest repayments would go up. So all those things would make consumption go down. Rise in taxes on expenditure, obviously that means people don't want to spend as much. And finally, a rise in taxes on income, people aren't going to spend as much. So the answer is A. Right, I'm quite enjoying not checking the answer. I'm just adding a bit of danger to this, which, you know, this is what I need on a Saturday morning. Okay, so question number 14. The diagram below shows the aggregate demand and supply curves for the economy. So what we've got so far is I like looking at what's happened before I actually look at the questions. But that's just me. You don't have to. AD has gone to the left, so AD has gone down. Right. Which of the following could explain AD going down? Right. A reduction in the rate of inflation. No, that's what's happened, but it's not going to be the cause. An increase in government spending. No, that would make AD go up. A reduction in taxation. That would make AD go up again. That's stupid. And then finally, an increase in interest rates. That's obviously right, because AD would go down. I've just noticed I've been saying obviously quite a lot, so I apologise for that, because it might not be obvious. I'm going to try and cut that word out. Right, final question for this one. When economic conditions look gloomy, interest rates may be cut to make borrowing cheaper and encourage spending. Or, this policy might be described above is an example of, okay, so interest rates being cut. Whenever you see interest rates, what do we know that's talking about? We know that's talking about monetary policy. So I haven't even looked at the answers yet, just having a weird think. So is it going to be supply side policy? No. Is it going to be budgetary policy? No, because that's not even a policy. It's not fiscal policy because that's Visi G&T. So the answer is B, monetary. And that's the end of this question paper. So well done. If you got, well, basically 11 will get you an A. So that'd be good.